Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning, everybody. Ooh, we're going to have way too loud there. So, it's Monday. Let's see here. We got a Federal Reserve meeting this week, don't we? Well, today is expected to be extremely tight. We'll go and check the volatility in a bit, but first let's go and check the charts. Got some rollovers here in natural gas. Here is the 10-year. It looks like there was a little bit of a move in the overnight. Well, over the weekend, let's say. And it continues to be down. I would prefer to be up here rather than down here, but yeah. Oh, it's okay. As long as we're not in the... I don't want to get back into the 112 range. S&P 500. Ooh, that's a big jump over the weekend. Ooh. And oil... Well, oil did pretty good recovering by the end of the week. I'm kind of wondering if it just returns back to this range, though. Gold gold pointed down. Ew. That looks a little ugly right now. I hope that they pull that one out. Copper. Ooh, copper jumping. Hopping. 6J. A little bit up, but nothing too interesting over there. In the dollar, seems like, you know, because for a while it was going up and up and up and up and up. It looks like maybe it's kind of trailed off a little bit. And Bitcoin trying to dig things out over there. You know, that it can change. It's the thing that I find the most, I don't know, funny about Bitcoin is how quickly it can go from like, oh crap, like this is really bad. This is really, really bad to, whoa, new all-time highs, right? Okay, coming back over to here. First, let's pull up Forex Factory calendar. Okay, we are in a shutdown. Make sure we got everything there. This week, apply settings. So we got FOMC statement on Wednesday. Chicago PMI on Friday. Some Fed speakers on Friday. Other than that, So yeah, today and tomorrow are going to be incredibly quiet. Most likely. And coming over here to our volatility and your note options quotes. 4.61. That is a noticeable contraction. Let's see here. Today is the 27th? 26th? 27th? Oh, I guess right. What was the number? Come back here. 4.61. Close that. Bring up this chart. Refresh there. Yep, so they did come in by a tick. Well, that may actually give us some okay range-bound trades to make. Although it's already come short and is trailing back on itself. Uzi says back to normal. Oh yes, because he was doing all that work. My plan for the week is to sell call walls in CN if we get a rally. Well, I do wonder what the Federal Reserve meeting is going to be like. I kind of wonder if part of the way that Powell thinks of things is like, oh, I have the actual interest rate and I have forward expectations. And so if I am trying to get interest rates to come down and I'm bringing interest rates down, I don't want the forward expectations to get too far ahead of that and make it go too quickly. So I have to counter that by adjusting the way that I talk to be more hawkish, so that the forward expectations part is more hawkish when the actual trajectory of rates is dovish, right? And so you may continue to get this thing where on the Federal Reserve meeting, even though they cut interest rates again, he's still going to talk like, oh, you know, everything looks fine. We're pretty strong, yada, 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 yada. On the other hand, he may come to a point where he says, actually, this is a problem. This is a problem. And we think that there's probably going to be another rate cut this year. You know, I actually like, oh, that's a good question. Let's come in and look at that. CME group. I was just noticing that it wanted that my trading system. Oh, it's because these haven't been shifted over. Okay, well, I'll fix that in a bit. Okay, so for the October meeting, pretty much with the current target rate is 4 to 4.25. Let's make this a little bit bigger. The current rate is 4 to 4.25. So there is a 96.7% chance that they cut on Wednesday. But what about December? They are saying a 95.7% chance that they cut in December. Okay. 350 to 375. So what about January? 50-50 as to whether or not they cut again in January. I think that well, I don't know. Like, I feel like a rate cut now and a rate cut in December is probably enough, given where we think the market is right now, to kind of normalize things and get business activity coming back. But if we're really concerned, like, you know, like the government shutdown ends up being way more damaging than we realized or something like that, then we could absolutely get another one in January. I wonder if I keep going out. Okay, that's interesting. So they're kind of saying for every meeting after that, 50-50 up until April. So 50% chance that they do it in January, 50% chance that they do it in March after that, which actually ends up being a quarter chance that they do both. Very interesting. So there probably is some room for the treasuries to shift, but I don't think that it would be like an insane move, because I don't think that it's going to change December too much. December seems like it's already too much set in stone. So maybe Octavius's strategy here might work, that if something happens, if there is a rally, sell the volatility on it. I don't know, man. One of the things, though, so here's one of the problems that I think we face trading this current market, especially if you were like doing a swing position or whatever, right? Because the S&P 500 is like at all-time highs, right? And is looking really, really good. And in an environment where the economy does not look good. The jobs market is just an absolute dumpster fire right now. And it doesn't look to me like it's going to get better anytime soon. And, you know, how can that be? It kind of seems like that there is a big risk here that you could have a big market collapse of some sort. But if that scenario were to happen, it would probably come out of the blue. Like we've had this issue with credit with like auto loans. Like one of those companies went under, and we've been having some echoes here in the. I mean, part of why the treasuries were up as high as they were was because we were getting some signs that there was some lender, somebody, some bank out there that was experiencing strain. Zion's Bank in particular, like taking a big write down, kind of in trouble a little bit. That sort of a thing could lead to a chain reaction if all of the sudden one of these big lenders have trouble, and they also end up being one of the big lenders that are responsible for this explosion in artificial intelligence compute spending. And the whole AI bubbles thing, which I think AI is a transformative technology, but I also think that the market is probably in a bubble right now. Right. And if that took a hit, then you could probably see the market fall apart very, very quickly. Right. So we're in a situation where like is a very, very skewed tails, right? Like chances are you buy the S&P 500 right now, you're going to make money, that it's going to continue to go up. But if it doesn't, it's probably going to fall apart in a huge way. And so selling volatility here is a little bit of a... I think, though, that selling volatility specifically on like this week and like after the Federal Reserve meeting and everything, I think makes sense. So now that we've started, the 10-year has been here at 08 and 08.5 for like 10 minutes. So it's really bad. It's really bad today. Felt like I was looking at something or thinking about something, and I don't know where it took it to. Whatever. NVIDIA holding a GTC event with Jensen doing keynote on the 28th. That's tomorrow. Followed by Google, Microsoft, and Meta earnings on Wednesday. And Apple and Amazon on Thursday. So it is a big week. Trump says Malay's Argentina win made a lot of money. Yeah, it's this is one of those things where it's like, I know that nobody cares, but it kind of irks me. Is a lot of people are complaining about Trump giving more money to Argentina and comparing it to like, wow, but we're not paying government employees, but we're going to pay money to Argentina. Well, paying money to Argentina is something that probably makes us money. So I'm okay with him doing it. No, I'm just putting that out there. Probably the United States makes money from it. And Donald Trump pointing that out. What's this? Hedge fund CIO. As we return to the law of the jungle, the range of accepted collateral is collapsing. Yes, another risk that we have to consider is continued volatility due to trade talks with China. Yeah. Although I kind of feel like that the market is starting to get like, I don't know, I almost want to say like they're sick of it, you know? Like Trump will say something and there's immediate reaction and then the indexes immediately claw it back, you know? Like they're just kind of ignoring it now. The robots don't, but I think that the traders do. I'll browse around here a little bit. What the heck? The first one, I pull up Reddit. That was my mistake, wasn't it? So pulling up Reddit. Pull up Reddit, and the first story that I see is from Livestream fail, streamer stuff. Valkyrie told QT that part of the reason she is receiving backlash is, quote, being so white. I don't know who this girl is. Actually, I've definitely heard that name before, but I don't know anything about her. But that is just like not a headline that I would want to hear about myself, you know, like what are you doing? Strong inside bid, says Octavius. Yeah, actually that is a good point. There's a couple of big bids there. And it's early. Well, I wouldn't say it's super early in the session, but I'd say it's early enough to make me think, maybe something's up. Sometimes I shouldn't just completely discount the chances of something happening today, because sometimes the days where it's supposed to be the quietest are the days where like we have crazy trend days, right? We'll keep on it. Anyways, on the live stream stuff, why is it that all of the people that seem to get famous on Twitch end up being complete idiots? What is with that? Like, it's really like at first I was just kind of like, well, you know, like everybody's stupid, but now I'm convinced that like there's something about it. Like does becoming famous on Twitch make you stupid? Is there a chicken and egg problem here? Or is it that Twitch just tends to like and make this people that are stupid famous? I don't get it. Because every time that I come over here to Reddit and I see a headline about live streaming, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that I don't stream on Twitch anymore. That is a pretty big number right there, by the way, that they had to go through to tick up to 09. I would argue that the internet in general makes people who are stupid famous and not necessarily particular platforms. Well, okay, bet. Because when I think about people that are famous on YouTube, who is famous on YouTube? Well, there are definitely some awful people on YouTube. Probably the quintessential example of somebody that I think became famous on YouTube that's kind of stupid would be like Jake Paul, right? So there definitely are some. But like, is it just confirmation bias? Because most of the YouTubers that I watch regularly, I think are absolutely great. Like I love watching Linus Tech Tips. I remember when that started and I first heard about him, I'm like, well, who's this guy? I know more than you, sort of a thing. But, you know, it just kept giving me recommendations, and I've really grown to enjoy that channel. They have their drama, but the drama that happens over at Linus Tech Tips, I think, is kind of like really lame drama. Like people on Reddit get upset about things, but I'm kind of like, well, I mean, it's a business. What's the big deal? Call me crazy, but I don't really watch YouTubers on. Am I your favorite YouTuber? I thank you. I appreciate it. Who else? Oh, you know the guy that used to do like movie, video game conspiracy theory things, right? I always enjoyed that too. That was somebody that got really, really big from it. I think there's I think there's something about Twitch specifically. I think there's something about live streaming specifically and being on stream like literally all day that you are incentivized to have drama. I think that has to be it, right? Yeah, I don't put you in that category because we've chat beyond the stream as well. So I'm definitely not in the same bucket as most YouTubers, am I? I think I've kind of had success on YouTube in spite of you know, myself. It's you're closer to an acquaintance. Oh, I'm just an acquaintance now. Okay. No, I think part of it was when we first kind of took off, like YouTube search was way better than it used to be. It seems to me that YouTube like intentionally made YouTube search worse. So there's that. But these people that are like streamers, like they live stream all day. Like they're live streaming like 6-8 hours a day. I could not sit here and talk like this for 8 hours. That would be so crazy. like 2 or 3 hours is plenty of talking. And when I have days where it's like a Federal Reserve meeting, for instance, right? And then I do the other hour streaming, like I'm so tired afterwards. I don't get how these people do it like 6-8 hours. But I kind of think that like if you've become famous from doing that, it's like it's selection, right? It selects for the people that create the most drama and are the most problematic, I think. Cause like the thing is like on YouTube, I can think of people that are like, you know, that seem fun, and I can think of people that are just completely stupid. But like, where's this person that is really, really level-headed, really, really understands the world extremely well, and is extremely responsible with what they say, and just has been able to use everything and all of their success for good as much as possible, and all of these, like, they don't exist. Like, there's people that like it seems like that, like Mr. Beast, it kind of seemed like that, and then you'd kind of find the drama, and then you'd find out like, oh, he's not that great, you know? Do you have your robot? Are you talking about my imbalance? Well, I have an indicator on here to be recording the imbalance, so that I don't need to turn it on. So I think I will not turn it on today. But the plan this week, and I wouldn't do it. I'm not going to do it today. Maybe we could do it tomorrow. Because today I got to take the kids to school, so we'll be ending in an hour. But tomorrow, maybe we can work on scraping the volatility number, and then combining that into some sort of a machine learning framework. Because we got that VPS, and I want to run stuff on the VPS. But no, I don't have it on. Oh, which, by the way, that reminds me, I never use, I have these like market tape windows over here behind where my head is, right there, and they're not showing anything because I never rolled them over. So let me fix that. EBZ. I don't think that an hour is long enough to make a web scraper. Tomorrow, I think we could probably get close to finishing it, though. I'm interested to see how that turns out, because I really want to get something that, like, it makes money most of the time. It makes money most of the time, and then it blows up. That would be perfect to run on a combine. What else is on Reddit? Utah Mammoth win versus Winnipeg Jets. I watched that game last night. It was an okay game. But the Jets are like leading the league now. Or the Mammoths are leading the league now, which is crazy to me. Because they were so bad last year. Well, they didn't make the playoffs last year, let's say. Wow, let's see here. From r/layoffs. I was laid off from Microsoft in May 2025 with my employment officially ending in July of 2025. My severance clearly stated that I am eligible for a rehire. However, it seems that the forward-year 25 rewards were published recently. Managers finalized them by June 30th, and my entry shows 0 rewards, likely because I was no longer a part of the reward cycle after being laid off. Now, a recruiter told me that because of this 0 rewards entry, I'm showing up as not eligible for rehire, and they had to revoke my verbal offer. Oh. So he had a verbal offer, and they took it back because of some sort of clerical error. That is insane. There's a comment in the thread. I don't know, but I was riffed in 2012 along with 1,200 people in my organization, and I interviewed several times and was then ghosted. I ran into the recruiter one night at a bar, and she told me that I was listed in the system as embargo, which meant I couldn't be rehired. Why would she be able to remember? Well, whatever. This was despite a good review history, and the riff was because the entire product was shut down. Hopefully not the same for you. It seems they don't want us back despite performance. Why would they do that? That doesn't make much sense at all. Being labeled as embargo is pretty rough, right? What, like, honestly, what is going on here in corporate America? With some of this stuff just doesn't make any sense. You know, I think that there's going to be a big shift, I think. Because, so here's what my thinking on this has been recently. Tell me if I'm like, if this sounds super insane or not, okay? I don't see the corporate job market getting better anytime soon. Unless there is like a crash and interest rates go back to 0. These big tech companies in particular are just not able to hire like they used to. which means that going forward, if we normalize interest rates and we continue to grow, I think that more growth will happen on the small business side than on the corporate side. In fact, I kind of feel that artificial intelligence and all of these other things going on kind of favors smaller companies. Like companies, they're like still companies, but smaller businesses, not like big, we're listed on the exchange sort of companies. The problem with that is that those smaller companies might not have the same needs. Like the thing that I kind of found through the contract that I did, I helped them a lot. I was able to do a lot for them, but it didn't necessarily further me too much because I'm used to working on bigger systems and more complicated stuff, so I didn't, I was just retreading ground that I had done in the past. Right. And I don't know if they necessarily needed me for the whole time. I'm wondering, I think one of the things that maybe hurt being rehired was that they, they have to pay a finder's fee to the people that they recruited me through, and maybe that makes me too expensive, But, they might not have the same long-term needs that a company does, right? And so that might mean that things go towards this thing that I've kind of been saying all along, but I kind of thought that we would get to this place in it really more because of productivity, but it might mean that employment just becomes less stable. So more small businesses, but less stable employment overall. Like people will need to get used to, getting laid off every other year and having to go and find something else, or doing contract work. That kind of feels to me like where it's going. Maybe I feel that way because of my own experience, but that to me feels like the way that it's going. I spent the last 6 weeks cleaning a corporate office for a government contractor, and I noticed some things about office life. All I saw was waste. Every job I've ever had has been narrow margins. So when I see corporate world, all I see is waste. Yeah. Always having meetings, and when you overhear them, sometimes it sounded like they're struggling to think of things to actually have that meeting about. That does happen. So, funny thing about this is in some companies, it is there's certain meetings that you kind of almost wonder, is it really strictly necessary? Especially in Agile, the meetings that you have in Agile aren't necessary to for you to know how to do your job or to plan anything. But through doing those rituals every week, that's kind of how you improve and get your velocity up. And so for Agile, I find that tends to work. It is good. But sometimes what people don't have anything better to do, and they make those meetings take longer than they need to, and then you don't do anything else when there's a meeting because you don't want to get started on something and then have to stop and do the meeting and come back, right? Okay. But when you get to organizations that are a little bit more ambitious, I guess you could say, right? Where people are not going to put up with a meeting that they don't need to be to, or a meeting going off the rails, or just wasting time. Instead, they waste time. Well, and let's not say waste time, but instead they spend more time just doing corporate culture community kind of stuff, attending a group for, you have different this is the way that it happened at Goldman Sachs, is you would belong to 2 or 3 different affinity groups, right? or maybe if there was a certain technology that you liked that didn't really get used, there you would have get-togethers for that. There were basically like school clubs in the corporate world, right? And you'd spend time on those sorts of things, or you would spend time in education. That was the other thing, is that you're always doing some class. And so it was never the case that like I had a whole week where I was just sitting down, pushing really hard, working really hard, pushing code. There was always meetings and things that broke it up, you know? And I kind of feel like that there's this point at which you get so productive. Like the thing is people, what people want is, I'm so productive, make it so that I don't have to work as much. Right? But I think the issue is that the value for the company is access, right? It's basically like between 9 to 5 every day, you're 100% available to them for whatever it is that they need. And it's flexible like that, right? Even though if you look at the actual amount of like work time, you maybe only spent like a third of that time doing real focused work. Different at a startup, but at a corporation, right? But the company is not going to give up that access to you, right? So probably what happens, and this goes back to this thing I've been saying about like more community-based work, right? Is you're still there 9 to 5. You just spend more of that time during 9 to 5 doing community-based things rather than hardcore coding. What the hell is it with liquid death? It's water, but corporate people love drinking water from aluminum for some reason. I don't know. I don't understand how that became popular. It's a weird thing. That's one that makes me wonder if it's actually popular, or if it's more them just saying, hey, we've made so much money just marketing liquid death, and when they started saying that, they actually weren't making any money. You know? And we're getting a nice little slow move up now. Okay, but I was going somewhere with this, and it was this. If work is going to be with smaller businesses and is going to be less consistent, less, you're going to be switching jobs a lot more and things like that, then that means that people are going to have to recalibrate significantly, right? Because there's this thing, like here, what we're seeing here with Microsoft is if you were riffed in any way, you're ineligible for rehire, which doesn't make any sense. So you had somebody that was a good worker, they were liked, and they understand the company. Those should be some of like the best people to rehire, and they don't want to rehire them because there's this idea that, well, because you're a rift, that makes you undesirable. But if that's the way that we're going to treat people in this world, pretty soon everybody's going to be in that boat. So we're going to have to change our expectations about that, aren't we? Especially in tech, because the tech world has been savaged. Oh my gosh. With corporate life, it's like, bro, if having an entire restaurant in the office made productivity higher, every workplace on earth would copy this strategy. No, I don't think. Yeah. Okay, so one of the things that happened at the 6-month contract they did, I think we talked about this a little bit, was they wanted to have a workspace that was just for us, that was more agile based, where instead of everybody having a cubicle, It was more of an open floor plan so that you could hear other people talking, right? And collaborate that way. And there wasn't any floor space, and I don't know why they didn't decide to just transform the existing floor space. But there was some area, there was an area in the warehouse, and so they decided to set this new setup in the warehouse. And the problem with that was that they didn't know it at the time because nothing was going on when they went and looked at it, and it was like early in the spring. But the warehouse gets really hot, it gets really cold, and there's a lot of noise when they're moving boxes around. So it ended up being an absolutely terrible space for the very thing that they set it up for. And then by the time that we had decided that it really sucked, they had already moved other people into where we were sitting. So there wasn't any spaces for them to go. And this was part of the thing that was going on, is like they wanted to hire me on full time, but they lowballed me. And I said, well, you can't lowball me, be super far away, and have an absolutely crap working condition. No, I'm not going to do that. And when I was negotiating with the HR guy, he said that the research that he had seen was that people were more productive if they were like given their own room, that they could hide away and be completely by themselves and just focus when they needed to. And that the places in the world that there was like really insane productivity and they really did amazing things, that it was your own room, essentially. And yet, we don't push that in corporate America, even though we have evidence to suggest that that's more productive. What's with that? Right? I think that some of these things have less to do with what makes people the most productive or what makes people the most happy, and like what makes the most money for the company. It's cheaper to just stuff everybody into one big room. And the things like the having food there at the, you know, like you can eat whatever for free, like they do at Google and stuff. That's more about retention than anything. Those are the things that people want to go and work at Google for. Those are all, and this was something that started very much so when I came into the the job market. It wasn't like that before millennials, but when millennials came in, they was like, all, you know, we need to have a ping pong table because that will convince millennials to come and work for us. And that's all what it was all about. But I'm not here to complain. Like I enjoyed working for Goldman, for instance. I enjoy working at a more of a corporate place than a small business, honestly. I just think that a lot of corporate America has been very callous about how it treats people, and it's gonna start boomeranging on them. And there are expectations out there now about the way things are, particularly like what somebody's work record should be, that are like absolutely insane. And what's going to happen is the recruiters and the hiring managers that understand reality and are watching what's happening in the job market and understand what's going on are going to be able to find good talent. And these people that are still living this delusional dream world where I should be able to just get a unicorn every time are going to lose out on all of the talent and not do as well, is what I think is going to happen. Until it gets to the point where everybody kind of realizes what we've done. Because, like, honestly, think about this. Like, for me, it's been a year. And for other people, it's been 2 or 3 years. And what do you think is going to be like if it continues to be like this for like 5 or 10 years? Right? I've seen HR types genuinely believe in their little constant meetings help so much because that's when they could compliment you in them instead of literally anything else. Yeah. So you know what's something that I see in the corporate world that I really hate, or I've come to hate, is the way that they do performance reviews. So like performance reviews really started on trading desks. You know, because you could look at how you actually performed, how your trading actually performed relative to the other people on the desk. And then, you know, you'd rank people, and then that would determine things like how much you got paid and your advancement and things like that, right? And so people like Jack Welch kind of took that and started applying it everywhere. And tech companies in particular did this. So it's really funny how tech companies, like how lemming they are. If they see all of the other tech companies doing it, they're going to do it too. And if they see the big financial corporations doing it, they want to do it too. And they don't seem to understand how applicable it is or isn't to what they do. And so at Microsoft in particular, this was a big problem because they do stack ranking, which is like you have a team and you rank everybody, and then the worst performing person on the team gets laid off. And that could be somebody that was really good. And so managers started doing things like hiring people that were supremely unqualified with the intention of them being the next person to get laid off after the stack rankings. And there were things like top performers didn't want to work on the same team because then you would rate your rival poorly on the performance review, and then you'd both get rated poorly, and then there's the chance that one of your top performers would end up being the person that's rated the worst and gets laid off. And I've literally seen that where people they wanted to move up, and so the way that they thought that they could do that is by rating everybody else on the team badly, which, hey, didn't work for them, by the way. Don't do that, but people do it. All it did was make the team look bad when it was a really good team. So like this thing goes on and it's just like, it seems like it's become so toxic in some organizations. Like, there's a way that you're supposed to take it, like, right? Like, everybody gets a 3, and so it doesn't really affect your compensation that much, and it's supposed to just be a tool for you to know what you're doing well and what you're not, what you can work on, and it's supposed to be a career progression tool instead. And if you use it that way, then it could be effective. I don't know. But it's just kind of, it's funny how we will set up these systems. I think it's just, maybe it's just a part of human nature. Like we come in and we set up a system, and nobody seems to think about the consequences of, you know, what incentives that system can create. And then when it goes awry, they're all surprised. Are we really just the only people that think about these sorts of things? Because we study market microstructure. Well, it sure seems like it to me, because corporations are setting up all of these systems like it, and I think it's hurting their productivity overall. But we'll see where it goes. Maybe all of that stuff and like AI and everything, it really is just complete nonsense, and there's going to be a big market crash, and then everything just kind of goes back to the way that it was. That could happen too. Getting a little pop here in the E-mini before the open. I want to continue reading this thread. I don't like complaining so much, but I'm not complaining. I'm just trying to understand what the current reality is, right? Back in the teens, I was laid off there and learned as a result I was frozen out of any reward, as they had laid off my boss as well, and my layoff was attached to his. My financial advisor, as the time, told me this was typical and to expect no bonus if you are laid off there, even though the layoff is not performance-based. Anyway, a couple of years afterwards, I was approached for another role, as I elected not to pursue it. Then a year later, they reached out again, and this time I bit. As soon as I restarted, my prior tenure was reinstated as if nothing ever interrupted it. Oh, well, that's interesting. So it might not be across the board. Unless the rules have changed and Microsoft violated protocols with that low performance announcement on layoffs, you need to look into this. Oh, that's right. So those last set of layoffs, they said that it was performance. I tell you what, man, this ZN, probably some of the worst trading I've ever seen. Probably could have made it tick, but ooh, bad. It's bad. The rehire eligible thing is BS. If you're a Rift, especially recently, you're most definitely blacklisted, at least for a while. I'm guessing when they're talking about rewards, that must be like stock options or something like that. The reality is most companies lay off people by stack ranking. Microsoft likely disguised the layoffs despite performance, which could be true, but who they decided to let go was the most likely decided by performance. Most recruiters are not going to tell you that. Or somebody says that wasn't the case with me. Well, that's a crazy story. It is, you know, well, like one of the things that's the craziest to me about reading the stories that people are going through and everything is the number of stories of people where they get an offer and it's revoked. That to me is so crazy. You know, if I find another full-time position, I'm not celebrating until the first day. Or the first paycheck. The first paycheck, and then I'll celebrate. What the heck? White House X account posted a Halo meme? What is with that? We come all the way back. Hey, maybe they're gonna turn it could be that maybe it was just the action was only bad on the upside and now we're gonna go down. Does look like the E-mini is still rallying here in the first minute of the open. Okay, so here's another thing, just a thought. Probably none of you care, but r/experienced devs, 5 years of experience laid off in May and starting to panic. 5 years is a lot of experience. You're an experienced dev at 5 years? Okay. Trump says he will ban early voting for midterms. Okay. Let's see. I don't think he can do anything about that. But Republicans would have an vested interest in preventing early voting. Probably. You like early voting? Hey man, that's just the way that it goes. If it helps Democrats, they're gonna want to get rid of it. It's that simple. Dude, it's been so funny to watch this evolve in Utah, because Utah has been the one of all of the conservative states that has pushed the most for like early voting and vote by mail kind of initiatives. And then after that election, you know, because I've hated it. I've always hated it. And I've always said, I'm just going to go down on the day of. I want to vote early because you never know what happens between when you vote early and election day. And watching Utah like flip on it has been pretty jarring. All of a sudden, everybody finally agrees with me on it. It's like, what the heck? We do in-person early voting. I mean, if you want to go after vote by mail, I get it. But going to my polling place early is fine. Sure. So here's the funny thing. Here's the thing that's I want to say I guarantee you will happen, but I don't want to say it so strongly. Here's something that will happen in the future. Okay. It used to be the case that Democrats were the populist party, which is to say that the everyday man was more likely to vote Democrat than they were Republican. And the more people voted, the more that benefited Democrats. But that is changing. Donald Trump has appealed more to general voters. The very educated voters don't like Donald Trump. And Donald Trump has his own personality quirks and things like that makes him controversial. But if the Republican Party continues to move in the direction of being a populist party and anti-globalization party, then they will continue to become more and more popular among the general lay people. And the Republican Party has a pretty strong incentive to be that, because like right now they're doing better in those Midwestern swing states because those voters trust the Republicans more than Democrats. They think that Democrats are focused on the wrong things and are too elitist and can't actually accomplish any of the things that they say that they're going to do. And so they don't want to vote for Democrats. So as that happens, all of the sudden Republicans will be all of the sudden Republicans will be incentivized to want to increase the number of people that vote. So right now, they don't want early voting, but don't be surprised if 10 years from now, it's Republicans that want early voting and Democrats that want to stop it. And it will be hilarious to me when it happens. I think it's fair to say, Uzi says, I think it's fair to say mail-in voting needs to be tightened up a bit, but early voting requires your physical presence. Well, I mean, I think that that's kind of gets into like, does mail-in voting open up things for fraud? I don't think that we have any evidence that massive fraud has happened because of mail-in voting. The possibility certainly exists that they aren't very secure, in my opinion. But I really think that the main impact that it has is more people choose to vote. And that hurts some parties and hurts other parties. It's like this whole thing with Biden. They made changes during the 2020 election because of COVID. And there was way more people participated in that election than other elections. Some people say, well, something fishy is going on there, but I think that the numbers that we see completely fit with the changes that they made to the rules, that all of these states had early voting and mail-in voting that didn't have them before. Tends to help Democrats a little bit. Although I remember back then we were talking about it and we were saying, like, is it going to help Republicans or Democrats more? And it was really nuanced because it depended on the area and stuff like that. But curious that now Trump is talking about it before the midterms. The people complaining about their dead grandparents voting makes it seem like mail-in voting maybe isn't the best. Well, so the issue that you get there when trying to talk about it as like a serious policy issue is that I'm pretty sure that it happens, but like to what extent is it prevalent? And I don't think that we have enough evidence to suggest that it's prevalent enough to affect elections. Same with illegal voting, although there has been some places where they were able to make estimates of how many illegals voted and that it was a concerning number. But I'm more interested in it because of the microstructure. The whole thing, the whole idea here is how you change the rules affects people's behaviors, affects the outcomes. And people in politics are messing with that stuff all the time because they understand those things to some extent. And I think that they understand that right now, the more people that vote, the more that tends to help Democrats. And so they kind of want less people to vote. They do it here in Utah, man. In Utah, if you go to an area that tends to vote Democrat, you're going to stand in line for like 3 or 4 hours to vote. And if you're in an area that votes reliably Republican and Trump, it takes less than a minute. It's intentional, folks.
Block sell.
Okay. Interesting. So we're seeing a pretty strong move in the dollar here. The Japanese yen is cratering along with the treasuries. That was a pretty big jump there. Are we to the levels? No, we're not. We still got some space to 03. Well, I think given the situation, I think we would still need to be cautious about it not getting all the way to 03. Which is weird to me because counties control the voting process, so our reliably blue counties are in charge of how they're reliably, yeah. But you got to understand that there are like organizations at the state level. So I don't know how it works where you're at, but like here in Utah, you know, there's like Republican Party structure, and they're going to be, though, that's going to be like there's a party chair for each Senate district and each legislative district, and then, you know, there's going to be one for each county, and then there's the state one, and those guys are constantly getting together and talking about things, right? And then they have people that are sitting on, you know, the organizations that are, you know, determine how, like, do all of the organization and everything for setting up the voting booths, right? And then those people say, oh, we're going to give this county all of these resources, and we're going to give this county like hardly any resources. And it's kind of funny how it works, because like you sit down and you're like, it's so hard for me to vote. Who's responsible for this? You're never going to be able to find that person. Like, who's the person that made this decision, that made it? Like, if you really start to investigate into it, it's just like, that's the way the machine turns. And so in that respect, you can kind of say it just happens because of the microstructure. The incentive is to have more or less people want to vote based on which party is in charge. Man, if anybody was just coming into the stream and they heard that one sentence, that what I said probably just would make no sense, but I think you understand what I'm talking about. Okay, so there was already a little bit of a bounce there. Oh, by the way, I don't have my news squawk loud enough here. The real reason the U.S. economy is so strong is that the rich are getting richer, probably. What is this? Today is an unequivocal win for Gamergate. It's over. They won. What the fudge is these people talking about? What? Do have to get going in 15 minutes, by the way. Is that why Trump had a tweet about Halo? Is that what some GameStop declaring the console wars over? Why would that have to do with Gamergate? That was from Jack Prosiviak, so he must be joking about something. Console wars are definitely over? I don't know, man. Xbox definitely lost. But Nintendo's still in there. It's just that Nintendo is a completely different market from the PlayStation. So I wouldn't say it's so much that that somebody won as much as it is that the console wars just kind of became irrelevant, you know? This is from Joseph Wang. Feds focus on repo rates effectively cedes control of its balance sheet to the fiscal authorities. This post explains the factors driving repo rates higher and suggests the end of quantitative tightening will shortly be followed by more expansion. I think that given the monetary tightening alone, that it's probably makes sense to have some treasuries right now, but let's see what happens. That's something that I didn't really factor into my analysis that we had at the beginning of the stream. That like they're cutting interest rates, yes, but at the same time they're also ending quantitative tightening. So Nintendo is doing so great right now. Remember their Switch 2 that came out and has 3 games? Yeah. That's not the way that works, Paul. They don't necessarily, if their intention was to have that console sell super well right after the first month and all of that sort of thing, they would wait until there's more games, yes, and they would do it at Christmas time. What's happening is they have so many problems when they release that they're going to make the initial release early so that they can then have new games that are worth playing release at Christmas, and that convinces people to buy it. So you can't call the Switch 2 a failure yet. I am a little bit concerned because I don't think that the Switch 2 is really all that much better, you know? But we're going to have to wait like 1 or 2 years before we can call it a failure. Switch 2 sell well to kids and the like. Of course, it has Roblox and Mario. Well, Roblox is a disaster these days too, though. And Mario Kart. Mario Kart was not that good, and the Sonic Racing game is better apparently. The device is slower and weaker than an average phone, and all the good games go on good consoles. Yeah. Well, the serious games go on the PlayStation, but like that's the thing is that like the PlayStation 5 hasn't been that popular either. You know what I think is going on, to be honest with you? I think that games just aren't as good now, and so people aren't spending as much money on them. There was a time when I would have absolutely no qualms putting down $2K on a new computer to play a specific game. And that never happens anymore. Let me come back over here to Zero Hedge. Maybe they have something about this Gamergate. Why are they talking about Gamergate? No, I don't see anything on there. And so 100% that's why I see nothing but hate for all AAA games, because we all know the kind of crap we're about to see from them. Yeah. Well, if I search, he must have just been making okay, so what was the GameStop tweet? Shares of GameStop surged more than 7% in pre-market trading early on Monday morning after the White House boosted a social media post made by the video game retailer with an AI-generated meme of President Donald Trump. That's it. What, the retailer's X account, which regularly posts memes about video game culture, made one such post on Saturday night declaring that the console wars were over after Microsoft announced plans to release the flagship Xbox game Halo on rivals Sony's PlayStation 5. On Sunday night, the White House's official X account reshared GameStop's X post featuring an apparent AI-generated image of Trump saluting the American flag outside the White House while donning the armor of Halo's protagonist and Master Chief. The White House post is captioned "Power to the Players," GameStop's official slogan. The White House's Rapid Response X account also chimed in on the meme, suggesting that this was the 9th war Trump had stopped, echoing the president's claims that he has ended 8 wars since taking office. Gosh. Okay. I understand. I get the joke now. Okay. The GameStop account has since responded with its own meme post depicting President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance in the Halo universe. This is so dumb. And that's making the stock go up. Wait, pull up the charts. Super charts. GS. Or nickel inside. GME. Okay, well, it was up in pre-market trading, but it's given up most of those gains, so I don't know. I whenever the Gamergate thing comes up, I want to rant about it because it still pisses me off, to be honest with you. So outing myself as an extremist, far right extremist, because Gamergate triggers me. It triggers me because Gamergate, if you go and you search for it on the internet, right? Like if we come over here and we pull up, we go to google.com and we search for Gamergate. Gamergate. I need to learn how to spell. And then I go to news. How Gamergate foreshadowed the toxic hellscape that the internet has now become. Gamergate was a warning that the media failed to heed. And it all just becomes about, all of these right-wingers were harassing people. Well, like when there's controversy, that stuff tends to happen. But that's not what Gamergate was about. What Gamergate was about was that far-left journalists were basically colluding to change the culture of video games against what the gamers wanted. That's what it was about. It was about bias in gaming journalism, but the deeper thing there was that there was a concerted effort to change the culture of video games to be more left-wing. And you can see where it's gone. Like all of these games that were released recently that did very, very poorly, that were all coded to be kind of like left-wing and have characters that were more, have transgender and gay characters in them and things like that. And to not have as many pretty girls in them. And what they found in Gamergate was that this was like a kind of a colluded effort. They were colluding, like the journalists were basically like working together with certain people in the gaming industry and were giving them more favorable reviews because they were on their team politically. You see? And what happens is that the left completely obfuscates the issue by talking about something completely different. That Anita Sarkeesian was harassed online. Shocker, turns out America just... Don't say it like that. You get me in trouble saying those sorts of things. Like, no. Oh my gosh. Reminds me, this thing this morning, I end on something even more controversial. So there's this guy, I think his name used to be Cam Higby. I don't remember what it is now, but he was the guy doing the joke on TikTok about the anti-bad guy, good guy club, right? And so today he was talking about how so many millennials were killed by abortion that it's equal to a Holocaust, and that millennials should get their own ethno state because a genocide was committed against them. Which is like freaking hilarious to me, but at the same time is like, you're gonna get yourself in trouble saying shit like that, dude. I don't think it's necessarily okay that I think it's so funny, but it is hilarious. The millennial ethno state. And then we're gonna have to start gatekeeping them based on who is actually a millennial and not. They'll probably gatekeep me out if they say you're too old to be a millennial, Seth. Probably. All right, and I'm gonna end it there. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll have a more full stream, but I gotta go take kids to school. So I will see you guys tomorrow. In the meantime, stay excellent, team.